Trucking cases are a complex area of litigation that requires an in-depth understanding of federal regulations, industry standards, the mechanical operation of a truck, accident reconstruction, and increasingly we've got to understand the technology that's on the truck itself, such as Bendix systems, but also the systems like Lytix and Samsara that are used by the trucking company to manage their own drivers. And it is bringing together this wealth of knowledge that allows you to fully understand the crash. And until you fully understand the crash, you cannot maximize your return for your clients.
Chris and I have handled major trucking cases all over the country. And here's what we know are certainties in these cases. Number one, they're often catastrophic. And as he mentioned, they oftentimes involve technology that's streaming back to the trucking company simultaneously while the driver's driving. They're oftentimes the first to learn of the accident because the driver will call the trucking company before they'll even call the police to respond to the incident. And that means that at the very beginning, the trucking company has an extra step on the case. And that's why we love to get involved, because we like to level up in these cases and respond with our investigators and put the full weight of our resources behind the case. Because at the end of the day, the client is number one, and we want to make sure they get full compensation for all the damages that they've suffered.
Parker talked to you a little about getting full compensation for your clients. To do that in a trucking case requires you to go back to the beginning. The beginning is when he got his commercial driver's license. It is when he first got hired by the trucking company. It is all the months and years of driving for that company that he did before the day of the wreck. It's how they managed him. It's how they trained him. It's how they supervised him. And largely what we see is how they failed in those areas to do an adequate job of getting unsafe drivers off the roadway. Now, to get that full picture, the full picture of what that driver should or shouldn't have been able to do, what that company should or shouldn't have done before that day of the wreck, you've got to go back and get all the records. And those records are now not in the driver's manual. They're not always in the annual review in his driver file the way they were 10, 15 years ago. A lot of those records are maintained at third-party companies far from the trucking company itself, where they maintain unsafe acts by the driver, near misses, almost crashes, and the trucking companies know that their drivers are in these events, and yet often what they do is nothing. You have to get that information to get the full picture and to get the full compensation that we demand of the cases and the clients we represent.
You may have heard this statement before, that it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. And as Chris was talking about a second ago, the way this information is stored is oftentimes the best defense the trucking companies have. It's not what happened. It's how they try and bury that information and keep it from being made known to both the court and jurors. That's where the fight is going to be. And that's why at Beasley Allen, we spare no expense in terms of our investigation and in hiring experts that can help us interpret every piece of data that we get from the trucking companies. And in addition to that, we hire experts that are experienced in the trucking field, so we can have a bird's eye view on every single thing they're doing from the beginning to the end. But at the end of the day, it's not just what we can prove. It's, do we zealously advocate for our clients and put them first? Are we concerned about how much money we make for ourselves, or are we concerned about what we can bring for our clients? That is the number one thing we're concerned about at Beasley Allen. And that's why we work tirelessly to make sure we uncover all the evidence and bring them to justice so you can be made whole.